For decades, the horror genre has been dominated by giant franchises like Scream, Halloween, and The Conjuring. But today, something is changing. A new force in the genre has emerged, and its name is Smile. Smile has not only captured the attention of horror fans, but is also challenging the biggest, most established franchises. But now, could Smile really surpass all of these franchises? In this episode of Peak, we are going to analyze how Smile has made such an impact, what makes it so special, and why I think it has the potential to become the next big horror franchise. Perhaps even bigger than Scream. So I'm Pascal and welcome to a new episode of Peak. Smile is a new horror movie franchise that has gained a lot of momentum lately. Both the first film and the second, which just hit theaters, were quite successful at the box office. But where did Smile come from, and why is it dominating the horror movie scene? In 2020, Paramount released a short film by Smile's director, Park and Finn, which eventually led Finn to get the green light to start filming Smile. The short film is called Laura Hasn't Slept, and it has a style quite similar to Smile. The cinematography, the jump scares, the atmosphere. The short follows a woman named Laura who is disturbed and doesn't know if what's happening to her are her dreams, hallucinations, or a terrifying reality. This isn't exactly the same as Smile plot, but it has a style that is close enough to clearly inspire this movie. Also, the protagonist of the short film is the same actress who plays the patient in the first Smile movie, which could be seen as a nice gesture, as she's our first contact with the chain of possessions we'll see pass through various protagonists across multiple films. Laura Hasn't Slept premiered at a film festival in 2020, and that's where Paramount first saw it, and thanks to that, the director Park and Finn was able to film the full-length movie we now know as Smile. A lot of people reacted very positively to this movie and enjoyed it quite a bit, because Smile managed to gross $217 million on a budget of just $70 million, making it a huge success, and it's very likely that Smile 2 will surpass that figure, as by the time I'm recording this, Smile 2 has just been released and has already made $50 million, surpassing its $23 million budget, and all of this in just 1 week after its release. So this is a clear indication that people are really enjoying this franchise and are clearly willing to watch more movies about this story. And surely, new audiences watching the second movie will be encouraged to see the first one, realizing that these are two pretty good films. This could solidify the fanbase and spark more interest in this universe, making the next movie highly anticipated. But why? What makes Smile movies so appealing, and why are they different from the rest? I think one of the reasons Smile is working so well is because these horror movies feel fresh and quite different from the rest. One of the things that makes Smile so interesting is the demon in these movies and how it operates. In both Smile films, we see this demon tormenting its victim based on their life circumstances. This demon feeds on the trauma of its victims, making it a very interesting antagonist because we see the protagonist dealing with this demon while also confronting their own trauma in an effort to overcome it. And with this, you can deep dive into some pretty interesting concepts. For example, Smile 1 explores the perspective of a psychologist who is tormented by a demon while facing the trauma of having witnessed her mother's suicide as a child. This trauma, which she chose to ignore for years, became a deep wound that irreversibly marked her for life. In Smile 2, we follow the story of a singer tormented by this demon. The same concept, but this singer has drug problems in addition to having experienced a traumatic accident in which a close friend of hers died. So the idea of this movie is that we not only see her fighting this demon, but we also see her dealing with her insecurities and the toxic environment in which she lives as a celebrity. These are two movies with the same concept, but they tackle very different themes. It's fascinating to see how in both cases our protagonists must deal with their traumas in an attempt to survive this demon. This gives us a deeper understanding of the protagonist and makes the story much more than a simple "I'm possessed and I have to survive," as we often see in many horror films. Smile gives each of its protagonists depth, which makes the films much more interesting and entertaining to watch. The demon itself isn't what's tormenting them. The demon doesn't need any tools to scare and torture them. This demon uses something our protagonists already have inside, the trauma of each of the situations they've gone through. This demon shows them something they desperately want to ignore, and that has them completely terrified. But where does Scream fit into all of this? So I decided to use Scream as a comparison because it's the franchise that I'm most familiar with. But in general, I'm going to talk about why I think Smile could be the next horror franchise to dominate the box office, and what similarities these movies share that led me to believe that Smile could achieve this easily. And trust me, once I tell you these similarities, my theory might start making more sense. The Scream franchise is a series of horror films that have taken the world by storm and gathered fans across the world, and the way they achieve this is with a simple formula and consistent quality in their films. The Scream saga consists of 6 films, which together have generated a total of $900 million, making it one of the most successful horror franchises in recent years. And it also had a massive cultural impact around the world. I mean, who doesn't recognize this iconic mask? It's literally the easiest Halloween costume ever. The origin of these films comes from a writer named Kevin Williamson, who had the idea of a story about a woman being tormented by a serial killer over the phone. This idea would eventually become the opening scene of the first Scream movie. Additionally, these movies were inspired by the real-life case of a killer named Danny Rowland, who was accused of murdering 5 students at the University of Florida in 1990. This gives the writer the idea of how terrifying it is that a killer can so easily enter a house, an idea that would lead to the creation of one of the most successful horror franchises in the world. The Scream movies follow a formula that has been repeated for years. This is what gives them consistency and quality. It also generates a large community of fans because they know exactly what to expect from this type of film. I mean, it's like going to a McDonald's anywhere in the world. It tastes the same everywhere and you know exactly what to expect. In Scream, however, it's a mystery plot with jumpscares and unnecessarily hot protagonists. Each Scream movie begins with the murder of at least 1 or 2 people, and from there, the plot takes off. At the end of the film, the identity of the killer is revealed, leading to an epic battle between the protagonist and the killer. This is the formula for every Scream movie, and it works. Over the course of 6 films, they have consistently received decent ratings on Rotten Tomatoes for a horror movie, which shows that people are not tired of the format yet and are still waiting for new movies. And I think Smile saw this and said, interesting. Because if you think about it, Smile and Scream have very similar formulas, but at the same time, they are different. And I believe that Smile wants to take advantage of this formula and create a massive franchise with these movies. Just let me explain. In both Smile films, we follow exactly the same formula. Our protagonist witnesses someone commit suicide in front of them, which causes the demon to take possession of them. The rest of the movie is about watching them get tormented by this demon, who exploits their trauma as they try to escape, only to realize in the end that they can't. Both franchises follow a very specific formula in each of their films, yet somehow they don't feel repetitive or boring. Instead, people keep showing up for each new release, knowing they're going to see something very similar to the previous film. But why is that? What is it about these movies that makes people invest so much time in them? First of all, both movies are highly entertaining and hook you from the very first minute. Smile grabs your attention with the shocking event of a person committing suicide in front of another, as well as showing you the symptoms that the protagonist will have to endure throughout the movie. This leads us directly to the question, how will our protagonist escape this demon? Will they break the curse? Will they decide to kill someone else to survive? Or will they find a way to defeat it without harming anyone? These are the questions that keep you hooked on the protagonist's story throughout the movie. In Scream, on the other hand, from the very first minute, the question is, who is this person committing these murders? Is it someone from this group of friends? What are their motives? And why am I starting to get suspicious even of the dog? Scream is very interactive because it drops clues throughout the movie, distracting you so that as the story progresses, you can make your own guesses about who the real killer is. And if you guess correctly, there's a great sense of satisfaction at the end of the movie. And if you don't, there's a big surprise. These are the ways both movies keep you engaged, making each story, despite the following the same plot, equally entertaining and exciting. Plus, they have the bonus of being horror movies, which means they increase your adrenaline as well. Smile has managed to do this with 2 movies, while Scream has maintained a loyal audience and high-quality films over a course of 6 movies, making it a billion-dollar horror franchise. But can Smile achieve this? Or was it just beginner's luck with the first 2 films? In my opinion, I think Smile has the potential to become an even bigger franchise than Scream, and here's why I think that. Scream was a very fresh movie in its time. It revived the slasher genre in 1990s by using effective jump scares, interesting dialogue, and humor. And I think Smile is achieving something quite similar. Thanks to Smile's approach to exploring trauma in a very interesting way throughout each of its victims, we can have a horror movie that is quite intriguing, not just covering the demon's motives, but also exploring the depths of our protagonist. This makes not only the demon interesting, but also our protagonist. In my opinion, Smile hit the jackpot by using this concept because it's a very interesting one. As I said, Smile 1 and 2 follow the same formula but with different protagonists, and in each movie we see our protagonists explore their own trauma and how it affects their life in different ways. This gives the franchise the opportunity to explore the traumas of different characters and their life situations in each movie. In the first one, we saw the trauma of a person affected by their mother's suicide. In the second one, we saw the trauma of a Hollywood celebrity dealing with the abuse of the industry and the insecurities it can cause them. And maybe in the third one, we'll explore the trauma of a soldier dealing with the experience of war. There are countless enormous themes and characters they could explore with new films. They have millions of possibilities that could be quite interesting, and the best part is that no story needs to be connected to the previous one, so you could easily watch the 5th film of the franchise without having seen any of the others and still enjoy it as much as someone who has seen them all. And if they add references to the previous films that fans of the franchise can understand, they can create a sense of recognition for those who have followed this franchise for years. Each film can stand on its own, and each one can explore a different trauma, giving it the opportunity to be more unique and fresher than the last. They can also create different settings. I mean, Smile 1 created a terrifying setting around a psychiatric hospital, while Smile 2 created horror scenarios in the world of celebrities, tours, interviews, and concerts. Each movie has a huge opportunity to explore both the depth of the character and the environment around them, creating a terrifying, exciting, and entertaining experience. And honestly, that's fantastic. I believe we are witnessing the beginning of a giant franchise. As long as Smile continues to innovate, show something new and unique in each movie, and stick to the formula that has been working for them, this franchise could become one of the biggest and best horror franchises in the years to come. And that's why I think Smile is peak cinema and could be the next billion-dollar franchise.